You're listening to MedX, the Medical Extrusion Podcast. Presented by U.S. Extruders. Extrude with confidence. Custom extrusion equipment designed for you and your application.
Hey folks, Steve Maxson here. Today we're talking about Extrusion Control Platforms, and our guest is John Brunelle, President of ProSystems Integration. ProSystems provides control systems for standalone extruders and complete extrusion systems. U.S. Extruders and ProSystems are located in the same building, and we work very closely together to provide solutions for our customers. John, thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me here.
John, we were on a call together recently with a client, and you were sharing your background and the history of ProSystems, and it was a compelling story for me to hear, not only how many years you've been in business, but how many installations you have in the field. So before we get started, please share a little bit about your own personal background and the history of ProSystems.
As far as ProSystems, we've been in business for over 23 years. And among that 23 years, we have well over 5,000 machines out in the field that we designed in-house, anywhere from a single simple drive to a complete complex multi-door cabinet with PLC controlled multiple touchscreens. So we do everything from the simple machine to a very complex process. And 23 years ago, when we first started, we were simply an engineering firm. We engineered our contract ourselves out for startup services, engineer design to other integrators and OEMs. But quickly we were asked by customers to sell complete systems. So we opened up a UL panel shop and started building our own cabinets in-house, and it kind of grew from there. So
excellent. John, when we talk about extrusion controls, there are different platforms, right? Starting with discrete controls that include single loop temperature controllers that have auto tuning, current monitoring, and heater burnout detection. And then there are different levels of sophisticated touchscreen control systems. When I see advertisements from machinery builders and systems integrators, the narrative is to, quote, modernize and replace outdated discrete control systems. But discrete control has its place as an easy-to-use and practical control system for standalone extruders. In fact, many of my customers in the profile and tubing market with several lines, all their extruders are discrete controls. Talk to us a little bit about the differences in control system platforms, starting with discrete controls to the more advanced touchscreen control systems.
You pretty much nailed it. There's two levels. There's discrete and then touchscreen. That's kind of what the industry calls it. Discrete is basically push buttons and single loop controllers. So it's very simple as far as technology wise. The ease for new operators or operators that have been used to that kind of platform to take a new machine in-house, be able to quickly learn how the machine operates and runs because they're already used to that kind of control system. And as well as maintenance. If maintenance is not educated on the higher end platforms, the comfort level with discrete machines. And there's also a price level as well. If you have a machine that you have a product run they're going to do for a limited time period, there's no reason to invest in a very complex touchscreen control system. You can buy a discrete system, tie in your gauge to other components of the machine, still produce a quality product. And then at the end of the day, your entry into the purchasing the machine is a lot less. So there is definitely a place for discrete machines. And still today, we probably 30 to 40% of machines that we produce in the extrusion industry are discrete. They're very reliable. They have the ability to add communications. So down the road, if you want to add a touchscreen, you can upgrade the machines and integrate the touchscreen into discrete controls. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. And we do that with some machines that we have done in the past. At discrete level, we go back and we upgrade them down the road and we add a touchscreen so they can add the recipe features and other features that we'll talk about shortly. There still is a lot of discrete machines out there.
Yeah, the bottom line is that in some of these operations, they're operators and maintenance folks, that's what they're familiar with, so they stick with it, especially in light of COVID and resource challenges. Hiring maintenance people and operators is very challenging.
And even components. Nowadays, it's tough to get components in a timely manner. And as far as discrete machines, we've been able to have a quicker delivery. So that made them, right now, that's a selling point. Discrete still is a very popular choice for us.
Okay. Now let's talk about touchscreen control systems, because there are certainly some advantages as it relates to recipe building, trending, diagnostics, and even the ability to send notifications to a tablet or a cell phone. Talk to us a little bit about some of these features on a typical touchscreen control system.
As far as ProSystems, we have multiple levels of touchscreen control systems. We have what we call our discrete control replacement, which is basically it's entry level. It's getting to an operator and a customer who has not had touchscreens in their facility to introduce them to it at a competitive price and a simple format for them to adjust to how to run the machine, all the way to a very complex, which we call our deluxe version, which has multiple levels, ties into multiple databases, screens, and so on. And all of them have the features necessary to run a product. Everything from recipes, and I don't know if anybody's familiar with recipe, it's similar to cooking. If you're going to bake a cake, you have ingredients that it takes to bake a cake, and you have the different amount of ingredients from a cup of flour to 2 eggs. And it's the same thing when you're doing a product run to an extrusion line. So we have recipes where they're either stored locally on our machine or they can be stored remotely on their server. So it reduces startup time. It reduces the amount of material they need to get the machine running. So with a lot of machines we do in medical, they could do 8-10 runs a day on a single machine. Yeah. So they're always changing the process and changing. So with recipes, all that setup time is greatly reduced. The amount of material they use is greatly reduced. So the payback for a touchscreen machine is depends on what kind of cost of the product is. It could be anywhere from 6 months to a year. So, and then from it's a moneymaker for them. So for recipes, all our systems have it. And then data collecting is another one that's very key for touchscreens. A lot of these machines and processes, they need to produce a report that they're making quality products, and it has to be electronic format. So with our machines, we have several reporting options. So they can extract the data, they can extract it and use it into different databases, use different software packages to produce reports. They can take that data, produce it into trend charts for process engineers to use for developing new processes. So data is a key word nowadays for a lot of companies. Everybody wants to collect data, and we have several options to collect the data. And again, it's just like recipes. We can store it on the machine, or it can be extracted and stored onto your servers. So with the different levels of we have in Pro Control, there's many options available. And there's other things, touchscreens, not just data and recipes, but alarm management. There's a lot more alarming available. So it gives the operator a lot more feedback of what's going on with the machine. We have basically screens to display simple things, why the extruder won't start. Could be multiple reasons why the extruder won't start. And we display every reason why the extruder can't start. And it's green or red. So if it's red, they know what to look for, whether it's the transducer is not plugged in, or there's simple things the operators sometimes forget, and they're looking around the machine to figure out why it can't start. And they simply open a page, and wherever's red, they go and they adjust or fix, and the machine can start. So there's that. And then there's also, we have a maintenance option where we keep track of timers throughout the machine, and we give the maintenance guys the ability to, similar to a car, when you have your oil change in a car, you have 20% life left on your oil, and you better make an appointment to change your oil in the car. So you call your dealership, you make your appointment ahead of time. We have the same thing with our touchscreen control systems that, give you heads up that, hey, it's time to change the oil in your gearbox, if you have a gearbox. And hey, you have a heater that's failed and it's time to change your heaters. We keep track of multiple things, and you can be customized setup as well. So it saves you on downtime. There's so many ways to pay back the extra costs involved with a touchscreen.
Yeah, you talked about downtime, and there's unplanned downtime. Neither one is time that you're not making money, right? And I was in a sheet operation, a PET sheet extrusion operation recently, and I was meeting with the maintenance manager, and he was talking about how hard it is to hire maintenance personnel. So think about a shortage in that operation of maintenance personnel, and then you have an unplanned downtime that's exacerbated because of that maintenance shortage. So some of those features you talked about to preventive maintenance and those alarms and such I think were very helpful and can help not directly but indirectly in a situation like that.
And yeah, and actually all of our Pro Control and Pro Control Deluxe and even the Pro Control 100 have the availability to populate all the information on cell phones, tablets. They can send emails out. So if there's any kind of warnings, faults, or even process data that the management department wants to see the yield output of the machine, all that stuff can be broadcasted through web pages. And we have security, so it's all security within that as well. So there's nobody can get into the machine and do anything. But it does give the ability for people outside of the production room to visually see via their cell phone or tablet what's going on with the machine in a maintenance sense, in a production sense, and also in a process sense. So with today's technology, with smartphones and everything else, it's really become I think the way of the future. Discrete machine is still popular, but with the cost of touchscreens and PLCs coming down, and then the payback you get with the cost of materials, the limited of staff available to work on these machines, that touchscreen control systems really it's here, and it's going to be the way of the future.
Hey, John, this has been a great discussion. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for listening to MEDX, the Medical Extrusion Podcast, presented by US Extruders. Please subscribe to make sure you're getting the latest episodes. All links are available in the show notes.